What do you do when you're in a meeting and there's no agenda, there's no leader, and there's no progress? Well, you could sit back and do nothing and remain silent like a lot of other people, or you could take the opportunity to show your confidence and lead. Welcome to Crossroads and Catalyst, the podcast with Shanita B. I am your host. This is where we discuss the thoughtful, wise, and strategic perspective at a crossroads can be the catalyst for change. I'm so glad that you joined us today because we are continuing our leadership mini-series. And today's crossroads is, what do you do when you're in a meeting or you're working with someone on a project and no one is taking the lead? All of us have been there, especially if you work in a meeting intensive organization where meetings are constantly being scheduled. But you're sitting in these things and it appears as if no one really is in control, or there's always something that's missing. The reason why we want to talk about this is because these can be golden opportunities for you to take those things and shape them for yourself. And in the same mode, you can also serve other people while you're doing it. And look at it this way, because really what I want to know is when you're in those meetings and you recognize that something is awry, there's no one who's really taking control of the situation and leading and providing some guidance. Have you looked at those moments as opportunities? I didn't always look at them as opportunities. I, like many of you, just grew frustrated and irritated because someone was supposed to be leading and they didn't seem to know what they were doing. There could be a host of reasons as to why they failed essentially to not be able to provide the guidance that was necessary in those moments. And the reason why you should look at them as golden opportunities is because you are representing other people who probably think and feel the same way that you do, but something has got to set you apart from them. And it is your position, your duty to set yourself apart from other people so that you are the one who can stand out as the leader in a particular situation. Because if you want to grow your career and gain that position, whatever that is, you have to demonstrate that you have the ability to do so. You have to demonstrate some initiative. And the only way that you can do that is to stand up and step up to certain situations and show people, hey, I have what it takes. And a lot of people don't do this because maybe they're apprehensive, maybe they're nervous, maybe they feel like they don't have the experience that they need. But hey, if you can use that as an opportunity to show, hey, even if you don't have the full level of experience that might be required, if you can demonstrate on repeated in repeated situations that you have the ability to lead, people are going to begin to take you seriously. And it would be, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you're listening to this and you've worked in a professional setting any length of time, you already have colleagues who support you and are willing to listen to you because you've demonstrated that you are capable, that you are competent, and they're listening to you and following you because you have been able to influence them in a good way. And, as I think about this, you consider that you're sitting in a lot of these meetings and it seems as if nothing is happening. And so many people are irritated and frustrated that they just check out. And I can recall one specific situation that happened some time ago where a project manager contacted me because he had gotten my name from someone who indicated that I would be able to provide some assistance. Well, we quickly assessed that what it was that he needed, I couldn't actually provide the information for him, nor could my team, because we just didn't have the level of access that we needed. And we didn't do the type of work that would require that level of access. So he pretty much had hit a wall. And what had happened even prior to him contacting me is he was in contact with another department and they just stopped responding to him. Different people within that department just stopped responding. And this happens very often, especially in large organizations where people they get busy and they just put things that they prioritize things, and sometimes those things that are important to you are not even on the priority list. And so that's what happened to him. And in those moments, I could have just done what a whole lot of other people do and just say, well, it's not my job. But rather than do that, I took the opportunity to say, hey, I know that I can help you. Let me contact the people who should be able to assist you. And he had already indicated that, hey, I've already talked to those people. Don't worry, I got you. We got we got a meeting set up. We had some conversations. We detailed what was necessary to get the job done, and I remained on some of those meetings in the immediate time after that to remain as I guess, basically an accountability partner to this other team. I didn't have direct authority over them. These were people who were my lateral colleagues, is really what you would call it. So we had pretty much the same position, which means that I couldn't exercise any written authority, any explicit authority, rather. And it does matter, but the fact that they knew me, that they knew that if they needed something from me, both sides of this equation, that if they contacted me, that I would generally get them what it was that they needed, or I would put them in contact with the appropriate people, it makes a world of difference. So this guy was able to move forward with his project because he had a pretty tight deadline. And the thing about it is what he was working on was ultimately going to be utilized by my team. And so rather than just leaving him out to dry and try to respond to his bosses and say, hey, look, I'm not getting anywhere and I don't know that we're going to be able to meet our timeline, I took it upon myself to say, no, I'm going to do what I can to assist you so that we can get some things moving. And that's how important it was. And you know what the result was? I had already gained his respect because we had worked on a couple of other things in the past, and he appreciated that, but he appreciated it all the more because he was at a standstill with his project. And he knew that I cared not only about him and his timeline, but about the work that he was doing because it was going to benefit me and it was going to benefit my team and it was going to benefit quite a few other people. And so that was important to both of us. And when you consider things like that, you want to position yourself to be of service to other people. And yes, I said service because part of what we're doing when we're showing up to work is we're serving someone else. And we cannot forget that if you want to be a leader, one of the one of the overarching themes of leadership is service. And that's really the best way to say that. And you don't want to turn people off and go down the path that a lot of people travel and just say, well, that's not my job. Because I could have easily told him, look, we don't have time. My team has a lot of work going on. We don't have enough resources, and it's just not in our purview right now to even focus on that. But I didn't want to do that. And furthermore, when you set yourself up to say it's not my job, what you're demonstrating is you have no ability to see beyond your own ends, which is not going to help you in the long term if you want to progress. Because if people think that you're going to be dismissive of them because it's really technically not your job, well then why would they refer you to anyone else? Why would they turn to you to seek your advice or your counsel or your assistance on anything? They won't have anything nice to say about you. You will be the person that they say, yeah, we don't want to deal with them. And you certainly don't want to be uh, known as that type of person because your reputation will precede you. So let's focus on some things that you can consider or that you should consider as you're walking through scenarios that are going to occur. Because if you've already been the one in some of those meetings and you've watched and you've listened and you really hadn't said anything or offered any ideas or things to consider for the team, or provide some type of guidance, because again, it's not about having the title, it's about being of service and assisting in a situation. That's what we're going to get into. And I have a list of about 7 things that I think will be very helpful overall, because this will help you to recognize that leadership is other centered and it's not necessarily about something being in your job title. It's about wanting to help people. Okay. So, number one on my list, ask clarifying questions to get everyone on the same page. This is so important, especially when it's supposed to be a topic that is supposed to be maybe urgent or prioritized, or like I said, just something that's really important, maybe pretty vital to the operations of a department or some vision or strategy that's being worked out. I've had situations that have occurred like this, and I felt compelled to start asking questions because I can recall in one particular meeting where I was participating, I thought that we were focusing on one thing, and a few other people thought that we were supposed to be focusing on something that was along the same lines, but not quite. And if you don't ask clarifying questions, you don't get people to talk and to help define what exactly it is that is being discussed. Number two, you want to rely upon the goodwill that you've built up. And by goodwill, this is the good reputation that is what I just mentioned, that your reputation precedes you. If you have had good interactions with people, you have provided information that they've needed. Maybe you've done it very promptly, or maybe you've done it very thoroughly, or both, and some other things that have really given people a reason to appreciate that they know you and that they can rely upon you. That is going to go a long way, especially when you're in a situation where it seems to be disorganized, there's no agenda or anything. You can rely upon that to help you. Number 3, be humble. If you are other people centered, humility is going to go a long way. And this is a characteristic that is underrated and understated. Humility should be something that you walk in on a daily basis. Number 4, be tactful. Anytime you're in a situation where it seems to be a little bit chaotic and maybe there's some confusion, it is it is way more helpful to be tactful in how you convey a message rather than to be obnoxious. We can do without all of the negativity. We can do without uh, the quick wit that it seems to be degrading, or the passive aggressiveness even. Stay focused, be kind, and just talk to people. And remember that they're humans just like you're humans. Like you're a human, excuse me. Number 5, be a connector of people. When you're in a situation where there is not much in the way of guidance, and maybe people have turned to you because they need your assistance, or maybe you've decided to step up and offer your assistance. Your job is not to take on particular activities that are really not within your scope of employment. And by that, I would use the example, maybe you're I don't know, the data analyst, but the work that needs to be done needs to be carried out by an operations manager. Well, it wouldn't do you any good to try to take on those particular tasks or action items because that's not within your scope. You just want to be the one that says, "Hey, well, I know such and such can assist with this, and so I'm going to put you in contact with them." Number 6, if you don't know the answer, don't pretend like you do. Just be clear. Hey, this is where we are. The question that you just asked, I don't have that information right now. Maybe you're the one who can get the information, maybe you're not, but you want to make that plain because part of being a leader is not pretending to know things that you do not, because this is how you abuse the trust of people, is when you convey that you know something that you don't. And number 7, acknowledge other people's contribution to the process so far. I think that this is probably one of the things that I've seen that has been it contributes to the demoralization of employees and team members, is because maybe they could only contribute to a certain point because they've not gotten the information that they've needed. They've not gotten the guidance that was required. There are a number of things that might contribute to that, but you never want to make people feel as if what they have provided so far is irrelevant, obsolete. You want to let them know that their contribution is valued, because you're not going to endear them to you by making them feel like what they've already done is worthless. And just consider these things. And one other thing I want to point out, because you might be wondering, well, what if when you're attending these meetings or participating on these projects, the person who is the leader per se and who's not taking charge or just seems to be in over their head is my boss? Well, this happens quite frequently too. Again, people they get titles, but they're not always prepared to fulfill the duties in the appropriate way for the title that they have. And what I would say to that is you do not allow other people's shortcomings or their insecurities to prevent your growth. If your true intent is to be there to serve and to help people, your boss will be happy about that. And that just a lot of this depends upon the type of relationship that you have with your leader. And I know that there are some people who work in environments where they might have a bit of a contentious relationship. The advice that I'm offering is really most applicable in scenarios where you can at least have a reasonable conversation with the person to whom you report. But in the event that you have a little bit more contentious scenario, well, you have to really consider how you approach situations like this. If your boss tends to be jealous or anxious, well, you could have a conversation with them about it. And like I said, you want to be diplomatic and you want to go in understanding the type of person that they are, the type of personality that they have, so that you can try to address and assuage any concerns that they might have. Because your goal is not to outshine them, your goal is to assist. And people who are insecure and they're afraid of how others make them look, or they're embarrassed that they really can't do the role, they're really not fit for the role. Well, at some point that's going to be made pretty plain, and the organization or their leader is going to do what they will or will not do in that situation. You can't do anything about it. My point is that you have to learn to navigate those situations despite what that is, despite who your boss is. And you should not allow that to deter you from continuing to grow. Your ideas are important. The competency that you bring to the organization is extremely important, and the way that you carry out your duties is valuable and important. And so I don't want you to forget that. You need to keep that at top of mind. You do not shrink back because someone else is afraid of what you can bring in the way of competencies and capabilities. That's just that's a no-go at that point. And because real leadership is it's never self-serving, it's always other-centered. You can do that even if you're surrounded with a couple of people, even who may not necessarily appreciate that you can do these things. But again, once you start reading the room and checking the temperature, and you recognize that the room is not fitting, it's not comfortable, you have to determine how you want to navigate from that point forward, because maybe it's time to find a new room. You might have to start looking uh, for a different position that will give you the opportunity to grow. But take advantage of the opportunities to lead where you are right now. And I think that you will be quite satisfied with the results. And believe me, the rise to certain positions anywhere is going to be rife with challenges. So you should not walk thinking that it's going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but it's not supposed to be. My own experience with leadership, it was not easy. And I would not even, I probably wouldn't even have a podcast right now if I had continued down the path where I was, because it wouldn't have even sparked a fire for me to think even slightly differently about it. So take it for what it is. You have the ability to change the course of your career one moment at a time. And if it happens to be that you are able to shine the light on something in a meeting because you stood up and you offered some advice, some ideas, you asked some questions, you showed people that you were serious and that you were someone to whom they should listen, you will get an audience and you'll be amazed at what it can do for you. But you have to stay consistent and you have to be committed to it. And I trust that you can do it. Okay. So that is a wrap for today's episode. I appreciate that we took the time to discuss this. And thank you so much for listening. And if you received anything out of this episode or any of the other episodes, I'm asking that you leave a review, that you like, subscribe, and share with others so that they too can have a listen. Because my goal here is to help you navigate the challenges that you face and to help you to also understand that you have the capabilities to progress within your career. You have to know some of the things that you need to do, and I want to know some of the things that you want to hear from me that will help you to accomplish that. Okay. Again, like, subscribe, share. And if you have a story or you have a topic even that you would like for me to discuss, then please send an email to me at theshanita.brown@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at theshanita.brown. And remember, crossroads reveal who you are. Catalysts shape who you become. Every decision matters. So make it count. Talk to you next week.